have so bitten off more than I can chew. Alright, let's rewind. A little while ago, I threw my toys out the pram a bit and I made this kunai knife just to kind of prove that I can do knives. And that video was watched by Dennis of Tyrell Knife Works. And Dennis, being the lovely guy he seems to be, asked if I'd be interested in participating in his next challenge, which is a fantasy weapons challenge. And me, being the moron I am, went, alright. And I was having a little thought about what to make and what to do, and then I was looking at the other makers who are involved in this, and I am walking in the footsteps of giants. And now I'm thinking to myself, what the hell was I on to accept? I've got to pull out all the stops, work outside of my comfort zone, and create a bladed fantasy weapon, of which my experience in knife making is, well, I've only ever made 2. Yeah. But hey, I've got an obligation now, so should probably do something. Life choices.
Shut up and sit down.
Alrighty then, here is the plan. Wait, stop, this is Editor Phil, and this was the part where I proceeded to waffle on for 4 minutes, so here's the abridged version. I came up with this throwing axe design, but I thought it was a little bit boring. I then came up with these bladed nunchucks, but I wasn't sure if they'd be flashy enough. Then I liked the idea of doing some form of bladed knuckle duster, but it turns out these are super illegal in the UK. And finally I came up with this thing, which is a Tekko-Kagi, which is what I'm going to talk about here. Now this has a stigma of being a ninja weapon, and I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty ninja fanboy stuff of whether or not that was the case. But whereas the legal definition of knuckle dusters is very specifically a weapon that goes around the knuckles, this obviously goes over the top of them, so I think I can get away with it. Now this isn't going to be the exact design, this is just a demonstration of what I'm on about, but I figure this will be a good combination of both bladesmithing and blacksmithing. I think I'm only going to go for 3 claws rather than 4, just due to limitations. Oh my god, shut up! So boring! Let's just make some kumai. Okay. So this is going to be my billet. So we're going for an external layer of Damascus, followed by some copper, O1 tool steel, copper, Damascus, copper, O1 tool steel, copper, Damascus. So first step, I need to clamp this all together, weld it up, and then we need to whack it in the forge. So let's do that. I ran out of welding wire. I have not planned this out well. Alright, using my crappy little stick welder, we powered through and we got this billet done. Next step is going to be whacking it in the forge. Turns out, welding is dirty work. Look at my sexy eyebrow though. I miss it already. Right, it's a new day. Let's get the forge lit. That one singed my beard. I'm not convinced this went well. I didn't manage to catch this on camera, but at one point I'm pretty sure I got it too hot because I saw copper squirting out the sides, and that may have completely ruined the billet. I also at one point had the top layer of Damascus kind of peeling up, and despite trying to flatten it back down again, I'm not sure how well that's going to stick, and I don't know if any oxides got in between the layers. So I'm going to grind it down, have a look, and hope for the best, and we'll see if this is workable. Otherwise, we're going to be starting all over again! Yeah! Shit. Alright, about a month has gone by because I've been procrastinating, ill, the Queen died, and it's been really hot, along with other excuses, but to be totally honest, I've just been lazy. New plan! I am running very low on Damascus, so in order to make my new billet, I'm going to be using half raindrop Damascus on one side, and half ladder Damascus on the other side. These are the only billets I've got left cut to size. And then rather than doing kumai, which is a 9-layer stack, Japanese for 9 being ku or Q, I'm actually going to be making a gomai, which is a 5-layer stack, go being 5. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a piece of raindrop Damascus on one side, copper, then I've got this big nice thick piece of 01 tool steel I've ordered, which is going to make up the blade, then it's going to be another piece of copper, followed by the ladder Damascus. So I need to chop all these pieces up and then hope I have more luck, because I'm going to be doing 2 billets this time just to make sure I've got enough material. Let's do it! Man, that's easier than using an angle grinder. Alrighty, there's the first billet all welded up and ready for the forge. I was going to do both of these at the same time, but I think the reason the first billet failed was because I welded it all up and then I left it a couple of days and I think rust got in between the layers, meaning it wouldn't braze together. So rather than risk it, I'm going to put this one straight in the forge and then probably do this one tomorrow. Fingers crossed I won't even need to do another one, I'll have enough material from this, but best made plans and all that. So let's whack it in the forge, squish it all together and hope that we have success. Well, this project is going ridiculously badly. This billet was going really well until I was putting it back in the forge and I dropped it straight into my quenching bucket. As you can see, we've got massive delaminations and an actual crack between the layers. I highly doubt that is going to stick together. So, looks like we're starting again, or I come up with a new plan. This may be new plan territory. So, having had a very poor track record with luck this build, I decided to go back to my roots. I had a bit of an epiphany. I've said multiple times I don't consider myself to be a bladesmith, and I knew that I was out of my depth going into this project, and the kumai was absolutely doing my head in. In fact, the thought of trying to build another billet is probably one of the main reasons for my month-long procrastination, and frankly, I just wasn't enjoying doing the project, and this is meant to be a fun build. And whilst I know it's not going to be as technically advanced or perhaps even as interesting to look at, I decided I was going to go back to my roots and more of the old school forging style of things. And the second I had that thought and made that decision, I was so keen to get stuck back in again. So, I guess maybe there's a lesson to be learned here, but I'm probably too stupid to figure it out. Right, we've got a starting point. This is not at all what I planned, but I am running low on time and the kumai gomai was just too much of a gamble. So instead, I think I'm going to go for some kind of brute de forge Tekko-Kagi / Gauntlet. I'm going to make it all kind of medievally and cool, I think. Alrighty then, that's got the 3 blades rough ground, looking pretty nice. As for what comes next, I'm not entirely sure. I think I'm going to hold off heat treating these for the time being, and I'm probably going to work on the part of the glove gauntlet Tekko-Kagi thing that goes over the back of the hand. Is that the right way around to do it? I don't know, but that's the way I'm going to do it. And shut up, don't try and tell me what to do. I'm a man! You can call me Count Fistula. Jokes. Never call me that. So, with this part now done, it's time to move on to the other parts of the hand. So, let's get stuck into it. So I've just got this knuckle duster portion of the Tekko-Kagi just tacked in place, just so I can see how everything fits up. The thumb's only held on by friction. But that is looking pretty freaking cool. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to rivet the thumb on, as this is very thin steel and it'd be very easy to blow holes through. And then once I've got the blades welded onto this section and another ring going along the back, I think I'm going to rivet this on too. Now I wasn't sure at first whether rivets would be strong enough to hold this section onto here. But, in actual fact, this and this is really just superficial. If I got rid of these, the actual two bands and the blades would be absolutely fine on their own. This just kind of needs to be held on gently. So I think we'll get away with it. But that is looking pretty freaking sweet. Right, with the brackets for the hand now done, it's time to move on to heat treating the blades. So this is 01 tool steel. I'm going to use this little sacrificial clamp just to keep everything nice and straight and hopefully prevent warps. And yeah, I need to pop this in the forge, bring it back out, let it cool down to normalise it a couple of times, and then we'll quench it in the oil, which I need to preheat to 40 degrees. And that is in for the temper. 2 hours. Delicious. Nice golden... Sorry, I made the noise I make when there's food for the dogs. Nice golden tempers on there, so yeah, that looks like job's a good one. Next we need to weld these onto the knuckle plates. Sorry. Hell yeah. So with the main claw section now done, I'm going to acetone it down and cold glue it to help prevent against rust protection, and then once I've finished the whole thing I'm going to give it a going over with some Danish oil to seal it in. This will give it a really nice black even finish, I hope. Well, that's looking freaking sweet. Alright, so while we leave this outside, waiting for the Danish oil to dry, I'm going to get started on the last two sections of the gauntlet. So as well as the fist piece, I want to have a little wrist bracket here, and then I want to have like a forearm guard coming all the way up to just below the elbow, so that this is going to be a full gauntlet with the claws at the end. I think that'll look pretty cool, so I'm going to make some templates out of paper, and then cut them out of the sheet steel, and shape them. So, let's do that! Why does the dirt always congregate at my monobrow? So, whilst you're watching me make these pieces, let's discuss a few little things which need addressing. I am well aware that this is not the tidiest looking project, and it's not meant to be. Yes, I could spend an extraordinary amount of time tidying everything up, hand polishing it, and making everything look shiny and nice, but I really like the dirty aesthetic of this. In the back of my mind, I'm kind of going for like the Witch King of Angmar from Lord of the Rings, and if you get that reference, you'll know what I'm on about. I want it to be dirty and grimy and kind of looking like it's been used and battle-worn, and I'm not wanting this to be some shiny, perfectly polished piece. Like, you'll notice the edges are all a little bit tatty, and you'll notice that the welds aren't perfect and haven't been cleaned up, and that's fine, that's what I'm going for. And you might be thinking this is kinda lazy, but you know what? When I was planning on doing this out of Kumai, I had like a couple of days laid aside to get just the hand sanding done, so don't even go there. But with that said, I'll let you get back to watching me hammer, rivet, forge, etc., and enjoy the show. Right, we have acetoned, we have cold blued, and now it's time to Danish oil the gauntlet. So, let's do it. Oh, that's a lot of oil. Whoops. So again, I am now stuck waiting for this Danish oil to dry, so that we can then rivet the two pieces together. As you can see, I've already drilled one hole here just as a guide, but there's no point drilling the other ones, because there's always a bit of movement when you rivet, so it's better to do one at a time. So, I guess I'll check in tomorrow once this is dried, hopefully. Really like how it's looking, though. Hell freaking yeah. How cool does this thing look? But I'm still not happy. Whilst I do like the dark, glossy kind of finish, having riveted on the thumb, you see this kind of texture here where I've knocked away some of the blackening? I actually think I prefer that, so I'm going to do a test piece on the thumb. I'm going to knock it and make it all uneven along here, and if I like it, I'll do it along all of the sort of exposed edges here. I'm also not entirely convinced I like this jaggedy edge along here. I'm going to experiment with making it even more kind of jaggedy, just twisting them a bit. But I don't know, it just looks a bit kind of odd at the moment. I'll have a play and see what I think. And then finally I need to make some brackets similar to this one along here so that I can tie this whole thing to my arm. And then, yeah, we'll be done. God damn, it looks cool though. Ah! So yeah, looking specifically at the thumb piece, I think I actually prefer that finish. So now I've got to knock off a load of this varnish and black oxide layer along the whole thing. I'll leave the blades, but yeah, I think that'll make it look a lot cooler and a lot more weathered and nice. it'll also help to give a sort of uniform finish across the whole thing. Okay, this is it now, all scuffed up, and yeah, I think I prefer that. I'm going to go over it one more time with the Danish oil just to seal in all the areas I've scraped up. But yeah, I think the unequal finish on that looks a lot nicer. So, now we just need to move on to more of these brackets along here. Alrighty, so that's got all the tabs now in place, front and back. So final step now is just to give it one last coat of Danish oil, just to seal everything in, as we've obviously scuffed everything up. And I think that'll be the end. So it's now all oiled up, and that is pretty much the last thing I needed to do to this, so you could call it done. However, I obviously need to have some way of securing it to my arm. Now, when I was planning on making this thing out of kumai, I bought this katana handle wrap, obviously gold and black to go with what would have been the motif, and I could use this, but I'm not entirely sure whether I think it goes. So the other option is I could try and make some leather straps which would rivet onto these and then just have like a popper fastener, if you know what I mean. I don't know which I prefer the sound of. Thinking leather wins. And with that, I think this thing is done. God, I love it! So just quickly, guys, before we get onto the glamour shots and me testing it, just a couple of things I want to run through with you. First of all, massive thanks to Dennis Tyrell for putting this all together. Secondly, this challenge was sponsored by these companies, which I'm going to put up on screen and links down below, so again, big thanks to them. And finally, like I mentioned at the start of this video, this is actually part of a Maker's Challenge, and anyone is/was welcome to participate. So if you follow the Fantasy Challenge, you'll be able to see everybody who's taken part, and down below I'm going to put a playlist to all the other people involved in this. Now, what I'm assuming is that most of the other makers are bladesmiths, and as such are probably going to make some absolutely beautiful knives, swords, daggers, those kind of things. Whereas with mine, granted the actual blades themselves are not the most exciting thing to look at, but as I've already mentioned, I've tried to go back to my blacksmithing roots, and I've tried to utilise other techniques you might not see the other makers use, and so I'd really appreciate it if you view mine as an entire thing. Now again, this is a challenge, and I kinda hate to do this, but if you like what you saw, consider voting for mine. Again, I'll put a link to the poll. I'm under no pretenses at all about winning this thing, but it was genuinely really fun to take part. So that's all I've got, guys. Let's get back to the video. Continuity haircut! Ain't that just the saddest thing you've ever seen? Poor guy. So, what have we learned from our experiment? Turns out, this is an excellent defensive option if you're ever being attacked by a naked man wielding a cucumber or an eggplant. That's good to know.